unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Wow, the UK's own Sky Sports' Johnny Nelson says he doesn't believe Anthony Joshua will continue fighting if he were to lose again to Andy Ruiz in the rematch. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing if you want to become part of the gang. Notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Sign up for ESPN Plus below using my link. It does help the channel, and I am an affiliate. Now, Sky's Johnny Nelson, former fighter, he did an interview, link in the description, talking about Joshua versus Ruiz 2, December 7th, upcoming in SA, Saudi Arabia. This is what he says. He could do that, but it would be very hard for him to do that, talking about continuing his career if he were to lose and continue fighting, because you have to keep in mind Joshua, or actually Adam Smith on behalf of Joshua, he said, Adam Smith, this guy, said he talked to Joshua, and Joshua says even if he loses, he's going to continue fighting for the next 5 to 10 years. And Johnny Nelson sounds like in disbelief, like he doesn't really think that would be how it pans out. He says he can do that, but it would be very hard for him to do that. When you've been the highest of the high, and then you're found wanting, and everyone knows what the secret is, that button to press, then you're going to drop down a bit. Joshua, he can box anybody. There are fighters out there that want to make a name on the back of Anthony Joshua. So, of course, I do believe what he's saying, but I actually don't think in reality that would happen. Basically saying Joshua, if he loses, would continue to fight for 5 to 10 years. I think he'll say, I don't need this. And I think he'll think long and hard about it because he's got a lot of other interests outside of our sport. Joshua, he's not just a boxer. He's a businessman as well. So he may have 1 or 2 fights and then say, I don't need it. He's a wealthy guy. He's not an idiot with money. Of course, there's a lot of pride involved, but I'd be surprised. I'm not saying I don't believe him, but I'm saying I would be surprised. Look at Wilder and Ortiz. When he fought him the first time, no one wanted to fight Ortiz. High risk, little reward, but do it again. Wow. I think it's official that I'm the realest in the boxing game who, speaks professionally and talks about these different boxing issues and calls it straight down the middle. Not to offend, not to condemn, but to give boxing a fair shake. And I told you earlier this year, the UK is a great place. I used to live there, great fans. But the UK has taken some severe L's this year and just in recent memory. Lost a lot of champions. You got a couple guys like Josh Taylor. He just beat an American, things like that. But by and large, there's been a lot of L's. Tyson Fury fought an unknown guy, ducked the Wilder rematch, and had a tough time with that unknown guy. Otto Violin got cut, then goes over to wrestling, and he's making it sound like he doesn't know if the Wilder fight will happen or if he wants to go to MMA, yada yada yada. Joshua lost, in my opinion. Katie Taylor lost, and big fights fell apart. Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker, an Eddie Hearn card. Ted Cheeseman lost again. Fowler lost. Injuries. Lawrence Okoli, Rocky Fielding have been injured. It's just, we can do this all day, but you guys get the point. Now, I feel like this is confirmation, and this is so funny that old media continues to Benedict Arnold situations and become turncoats. And what I mean is, just 8 months before June 1st, we'll put it that way. So last year up until June 1st, when Joshua lost to Ruiz, I would do my regular videos, give my regular opinions and thoughts on the world of boxing, and even Joshua. And I said what I said, and I meant what I said. And now it's almost like the Ruiz fight has depleted the fan base of Joshua and deflated the ship's sails, and it gave a little bit of humility and humble pie to a lot of guys, especially in the UK, for Joshua. They now know and realize that a lot of which they were saying in the comment section and how hard they were riding wasn't really a reality. You know, the reason this stems is because it was almost a territorial beef between Deontay Wilder, a USA American fighter, and a UK fighter. And people let pride and delusions and statements from Eddie Hearn and the switching of statements from Eddie Hearn, Joshua, Barry Hearns, and stuff like that get in the way, to the point where they were just arguing just to be arguing. They were like coming to my page and saying this, that, and the third. Wilder's ducking. Wilder's deathly afraid of Joshua. AJ is the big star, bigger in America than Wilder. You know, just these radical statements. And over time, all of these statements have proven untrue. And you still have Eddie Hearn, who, you know, he's a promoter, so he's going to say whatever. But he's still trying to pitch these same notions, and it looks really ridiculous. For example, Eddie Hearn recently said, despite what Wilder said out of his own mouth, he says Wilder is lying and he would accept the franchise champion belt, and he would do it in order to duck Anthony Joshua, who just lost by knockout and got dropped 4 times and is in a do or die must win fight in a rematch December 7th with Andy Ruiz, the same guy who had faster hands than him, looked to have a better chin and be more durable and put together and keep his cool under pressure. That's what Joshua has to fight, not Wilder. But once again, Eddie Hearn, the clout chase master, is clout chasing Wilder's name, the same thing that he shunned and admonished Deontay Wilder for doing. He said Deontay Wilder was using Anthony Joshua's profile to build his own bio and wouldn't stop talking because he was trying to gain celebrity off the backs of his hard work and Joshua's hard work. But now, oh, what a difference a year makes. Now you have Eddie Hearn, who's incessantly talking about Deontay Wilder, Wilder's moves, what type of pay-per-view buys Deontay Wilder will do with Luis Ortiz, a promotion that has nothing to do with DAZN, nothing to do with Sky, nothing to do with Rematch Room, you know, and he's guesstimating what he believes, which I don't think. I think he purposely to lie to the public and, you know, create a headline. I think he's underrating the fight and the success of the fight, similar to what Eddie Hearn did last year when he said Wilder and Tyson Fury would never happen, and when it was announced, he said it still wasn't going to happen. Tyson Fury wasn't going to make the ring walk and pull out with the injury. You know, he says Wilder was going to knock out Tyson Fury in the first couple rounds. That didn't happen. You know, it's just he's been wrong nonstop. And I've noticed this with the UK is like sometimes the UK and just boxing fans, radical fan bases, then, you know, something happens and then all of a sudden they become a lot more cautious, we'll say, to say certain things. So it's just been a bad year for the UK boxing, not the UK in general, but the UK boxing that I'm referring to. You know, you see it nonstop. Now you have Johnny Nelson, who's a big advocate for everything UK. Johnny Nelson, who was just doing the Sky telecast for the KSI Logan Paul card, and he had so many critiques and criticisms of American fighter Devin Haney, who signed to Eddie Hearn. And I heard him say even fewer words for a guy who looked much worse in Billy Joe Saunders. That UK bias is looking ridiculous. How can you criticize Devin Haney for his performance on the KSI Logan Paul 2 card, but really say very little and focus all of your constructive criticisms, we'll say, on Devin Haney, who looked far superior. He was just in there with the awkward guy who wasn't really trying to win. You know, after the knockdown, he got gun shy. And on top of that, Devin Haney said that he injured his shoulder. But nonetheless, his guy wasn't going for it. Billy Joe Saunders' guy was going for it and was looking to fight, throwing punches, trying to throw combinations. And Billy Joe Saunders, the UK fighter, was in a extremely tough fight where he was made to look bad for much of 10 rounds before the 11th round, and he finally got the stoppage, you know. So the UK, it's just like, in my opinion, they should improve their commentary. Now you got Johnny Nelson, who's always been, you know, an advocate of Joshua and always sung his high praises. You ask him about Wilder, you know, just the same typical stuff, making it sound like Joshua is a massive favorite over Wilder. Now, fast forward to past the Andy Ruiz loss, it's like he's given up. It's like he's given up on Joshua being the same after the Andy Ruiz necessarily. He's saying if he loses again, I don't know. He's a businessman, so he could get into real estate and he could do this, and he's smart with his money, and you know, he's going to probably look and say, I don't have to keep fighting. I've accomplished a lot. You know, it's almost like the UK is trying to let themselves down gently. You know, that's what I really feel. I really feel like that. It's like they're trying to let themselves down gently. They know they overrated Anthony Joshua. Not saying he's not a good fighter, but they realize now after, like, dang, you can't beat Andy Ruiz on short notice. Now you're giving Andy Ruiz a full camp and he's hungrier than ever because he got a taste of the fame. And it's like they're trying to let themselves down gently, knowing that reality might strike on December 7th. I'm picking Ruiz. I've never wavered from that. I've continued to pick him. And it's almost like the UK is jumping ship while they can. That's how I take it. You know, because just a year ago, we didn't hear the same type of commentary from none of these people. We didn't hear about, Joshua's a businessman and he has other investments outside of boxing. He doesn't blow his money. He's not foolish with his money. So he's probably going to, you know, call it quits and call it a day. Now all of a sudden you see people talking about, Joshua, this might be his last fight if he loses, or he'll retire shortly after. So to me, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign that Joshua told Adam Smith that he wants to keep fighting even if he loses. None of this is a good look to me, because I feel like that you realize now it's a reality. I never heard Floyd or Roy Jones in his prime talk about losing as much as I've heard Joshua talk about it, you know. And to me, it just shows that there was an inherent UK bias, and they didn't necessarily believe what they were saying, or they believed it and it came to a crashing, screeching halt when reality set in and he faced someone who is shorter than Wilder, less power than Wilder, less reach than Wilder, and he was able to, you know, put Joshua in severe predicaments before getting a knockout. Now I don't even see, and it's funny because Eddie Hearn's still at it. He's still trying to push this narrative that Wilder's afraid of Dillian White. Oh yeah, Wilder's afraid of Dillian White, who we still don't know where his B sample is, failed a drug test. Eddie Hearn has given us no clarification on what's going on with the situation. He was like weaseling out of questions when he was being pressed by Fred. And we're supposed to be concerned with WBC American Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder versus Dillian White, and we don't even know the status of him fighting or what's going on. We're supposed to believe that Wilder's is afraid and chicken little and scared of Joshua, who couldn't get past Ruiz on short notice, you know, and Wilder's momentum seems to be growing. Wilder's fighting Luis Ortiz, who Johnny Nelson just admits in the same interview nobody else wants to fight him. So it's looking real bad for the UK, and now people's true colors are coming out, and we get to see what they believe in now. It's like Andy Ruiz, shout out to Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz, his performance, what he did, has forced the UK to come back a little bit more correct, because now I'm seeing the commentary that we always should have been seeing from the UK in regards to Joshua. You know, Same thing with Tyson Fury. Now Tyson Fury turned his back and said he shunned the UK. He said, I don't even want to fight there no more. I'm good. They didn't take care of me and treat me good when I was there. I'm making money. I got a new autobiography. I'm on the Joe Rogan show. I'm wrestling. I'm in Vegas. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. So I just feel like it's a bad look for the UK and your boy Ego. This wasn't to razz the UK or, create no kind of coastal, war, nothing like that. But the reality is, this is what I told you guys. I told you guys in the UK that you got people representing you who aren't being truthful and stuff like that. And they were doing all these chants, we're not gonna, that's all they want, and doing all this extra stuff. And over time is going to prove everything. Time is going to see what you're really talking about. And to me, it looks like at this current juncture in the sport of boxing, all of a sudden, the diehard radicals no longer have the same amount of faith that Joshua will necessarily be able to get things done. They're talking about him retiring and he doesn't need boxing. Not a good sign. We don't hear Manny Robles or anybody affiliated with Ruiz saying, Andy Ruiz, even if he loses, he made some good money. He could sell his jewelry and, all these other things. So it looks like to me, the UK is at the very least, now their commentators are, they've been forced to deal with a possible truth. And that's Joshua could lose here. And it'd be the same situation as David Price. Maybe Joshua was more domestic level fighter than before. And what I'm saying is right. New media. Because before, remember, they were saying that Joshua could be greater than Lennox Lewis. You were hearing those early comparisons. But ain't nobody after Lewis lost to Oliver McCall was talking about Lennox Lewis. He was in the Olympics. He's already done a lot. He's already beat Razor Ruddock, blah, blah, blah. He should retire. He's probably going to retire. He probably would be like, I don't need this. Even after Lewis lost to Hasim Rahman, you didn't hear people say, he's already conquered Tyson, David Tua, Briggs, blah, 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 or whoever he had faced at that point, and say, Lennox Lewis, he was in Ocean's 11. He don't need this. But once again, this is the UK babying Joshua, and reality is setting in, and you see who really believed what, or who was forced to change their wild perceptions early. What they were saying just last year, they've had to change. I haven't changed nothing I said. I told you from the jump that Wilder I said he'll beat Joshua. That's clear what I said. I said he will beat him. I don't see it no other way. If he could get past Luis Ortiz, who's a southpaw and technical, and does things kind of more effortless. Joshua's kind of stiff, etc. I'm not even going to go too far into this. I just want to unpack this very topic. We unpack coming to you live. So that's my statements. It's funny to see all these UK YouTube channels. I don't really watch it, but you could tell from headlines. I used to see all these headlines and people debating what I was saying, and sending links and different commentators saying this and Sky saying this. Now it looks like just like what HBO did to Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. It's the same exact thing. They said Chocolatito was number one. He loses to Sor Rungvisai. They say it was controversial, even though Chocolatito didn't look great and got knocked down in that fight, a fight I covered as Credential Media. And he comes back, fights Sor Rungvisai again, and HBO, who had been pushing him heavily and, always siding with him, even in close fights like McWilliams Arroyo and Carlos Cuadras, they only seen it as lopsided Chocolatito wins, and they tried their best. This is what old media does, shapeshifters. They tried their best to tell you that Chocolatito was number one pound for pound. In the thick of it, when the going got tough, all of a sudden, they abandoned him. Jim Lampley started saying stuff like, Chocolatito will never be the same. He can't come back from this. It'll never happen. Like, dang, this is the same guy you was just saying was pound for pound number one. How come you don't have any faith that he can return from this? And realistically, where is Chocolatito? He really hasn't returned from this. You know, he may have fought, but he hasn't come back to where he's like signed with a major promotion and getting all this American pub. So it's just funny. Once again, new media, we just keep controlling the narrative. You see who believes what they say. Most things in boxing, I haven't changed. I stuck to the script. I haven't changed my demeanor. You know, then you drop shook one, switch your demeanor. I ain't done that. I'm saying the same thing I was saying about Wilder at Joshua last year. But you see, with the shortcomings and what's happened, people are now, other people who said crazy stuff, they have been forced to revise what they were previously saying. We unpack. Let me know what you guys think. We working.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.